Psychiatric Advance Directives, what are they? A Psychiatric Advance Directive is a document that allows a person with a serious mental illness to prepare for a crisis in advance. It enables them to put things into place that can assist in de-escalating a crisis or just simply planning for it. It's just a planning document. I was told that I need to kind of beef up my initial explanation. I don't think that really was helpful, but okay. At its core, according to the statute, the Psychiatric Advance Directive is called a Declaration of Mental Health Treatment. It has 3 parts. The first part is Psychoactive Medication. In this section of the document, it enables a person with a serious mental illness to provide information to hospitals, local mental health authority, and jails of what medications work, what medications don't work. Why is this important? Well, there are a lot of different psychiatric medications, and oftentimes people will spend years and years trying to figure out which meds work and which don't. It's not like an aspirin. So when they go into the system, it's important for people to empower the hospitals to have that knowledge. Here's a good example of an extreme example of why it's really important. I have a client who in 2009, she had lithium toxicity. Lithium, if you get really dehydrated, you can end up with lithium toxicity, your kidneys can shut down, and you end up in a coma. So she had lithium toxicity, and if you've had it, you don't need to be put on lithium again. When I met her, what was she on? She was on lithium because no one knew. If my client knows that this medication doesn't work for her, or this other one does, this is information that hospitals need to know, that jails need to know, that lawyers need to know. Convulsive treatment is the second part of the Declaration of Mental Health Treatment. It's just a way to enable someone to either consent or not to consent to convulsive treatment. It is the only part of the document that is 100% prohibition. So if I say in my Psychiatric Advance Directive, I do not consent to convulsive treatment, no one can override that. Everything else can be overridden. Preferences for emergency treatment. I really like this section because I think it provides a good example of how laws sometimes are written by people that mean really well but don't necessarily have on-the-ground knowledge of what actually happens in the trenches. The first part of preferences for emergency treatment, what we're talking about is someone inside a hospital and a crisis is occurring and there's going to be an emergency intervention right then. So there is about to be a physical engagement. They can choose between forced medication, seclusion, or restraint. So when I talk to my clients about this, they're kind of going, yeah, like this is not why you ask me this question. Only because we need to put it in the order of least bad to most bad. It's what's in the statute, let's just get it in there. However, what does this do? This provides an opportunity for us to provide staff in the hospital with information about what can de-escalate. Before you do an emergency intervention, when I start to become agitated or upset, here are the things that can help me. Please ask me what is going on. Please do not box me in. Please ask me if I want to watch TV. Do I want to color? Do I want to draw in a notebook? Please do not come up behind me. Please do not stand over me. Please have a woman engage with me if possible. This is best for everybody because it enables de-escalation so that that emergency treatment does not have to occur. Can you switch it, please? Okay. In addition to the core part of the document, the Declaration for Mental Health Treatment, this is the one that we do next, information for law enforcement and crisis personnel. In addition to great CIT programs, which I have seen CIT in action when I lived in Houston, I saw them. They were really fantastic, but we're also finding that our clients have very specific things that they know that help them. I have a client who's a veteran, he's a combat veteran from Afghanistan, and he knows when he's well what happens when he is inside psychosis and in a PTSD episode. He knows that sometimes he will think that people are not who they say they are, he'll think that they are imposters. So one of the things that he's identified is that if he is in a crisis and law enforcement and crisis personnel are coming up to him, please say, I am who I say I am. Offer me a card. Tell me I'm not in Afghanistan. Tell me the day, the month, and the year. Call me by my name. Look me in the eye. Please don't call me by my name. Don't look me in the eye. Please don't come behind me. Please don't box me in. Please, if you're going to touch me, tell me that you're going to do so before you do so. Please give me a chance to comply. These are pieces of information that our clients know work for them. This can help de-escalate situations with law enforcement, which is best for everybody. Please switch it. Okay. Also in the documents of the core document, we're doing a medical power of attorney in addition. And so we identify who is the MPOA. If they're a veteran, we want that information in there. I want my veterans to be able to go to the VA, right? We can put in there, I am a veteran, I am eligible to go to the VA, here is the information, so that law enforcement knows, so we don't waste our time going to a different hospital and now they've been shifted around. Next of kin, this is something the hospital's asked for, because oftentimes someone with a serious mental illness will also have a medical condition when they're coming in, and there may be a serious situation they need to know next of kin. Could you switch it, please? Thank you. Preferences regarding notification of others. So someone goes into a hospital, no one knows where they are, they're not able to make a phone call, they're in crisis. This waives HIPAA for the specific purpose of notifying next of kin only so someone knows where they are. Will you switch it, please? That's gonna get annoying for y'all, I'm sorry. Okay, why? Next. Okay, yeah, it's gonna get annoying because I thought I was being clever with my slides. Civil, please, next. Maybe we can pretend that it's magic. I'm pretty sure technology is anyway. Okay, that's my explanation at this point. So from the civil perspective, and obviously these things go together, right? It's critical information for doctors, mental health agencies, and lawyers. Can I just like wave when I need you to press it? Coordination of care. It doesn't exist. I mean, we can pretend that it does, but it doesn't. Every time a person goes, and I'm sorry if I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but I think we're probably all like reality-based enough to know that it doesn't work. It doesn't exist. Every time a person goes into a jail, every time they enter a local mental health authority, every time they go into a hospital, it's as if they're born again. And then when they come out, it's as if they've died and they're no longer, they're off the system. What is a psychiatric advance directive? It is a literal on-the-page document that can enable coordination of care. It can provide detailed, concrete information. So even if you have coordination, let's say the hospitals are able to communicate with each other, 10,000 pages of medical records. No one can go through all of that. I thought I had 15 minutes total. 10. Okay. So coordination of care. Next, please. Treatment compliance and buy-in. We need like radical pragmatism. Unless we're gonna put people locked away from society, strapped down, and force medication on them, then we have to have some buy-in. We just have to. What we have found is that when we ask people, what do you want? What works for you? As soon as you start asking those questions, people know what works for them and they wanna be able to tell you that's what they want. They want to be treated, but they want to be treated in the way that they know helps them. I have only had one client that did not want medication at all, only one. All of the rest of them have said, yes, I do, but here is what works for me. Please, next. Avoiding, obviously the whole goal is to avoid and reduce crises. Next, please. So what we're doing with our directives, our expanded psychiatric advance directives, because I work for legal aid and we have a civil component, we also have public defender component down in rural areas, but we have all of these different areas of law. The idea is that through our ongoing relationship with the client, we are able to identify those underlying issues that are leading to the cycle of recidivism. It doesn't do me any good to prevent my client from being evicted if they're gonna come back in 6 months and get evicted again. Why are they getting evicted? Well, they went and they yelled at their neighbor. Why did that happen? Well, my neighbor was being mean to me. Were you sleeping? No. Why weren't you sleeping? My neighbors above me were walking around at night, woke me up, I went into a manic episode, and now I've yelled at my neighbors and I'm getting kicked out. Okay, so now we know we need to ask for accommodation so that my client doesn't live on the ground floor with someone walking around above them. The idea is that through our relationship with our clients, we can identify what are the supports and services that person really needs in order to be able to maintain their life within the community. Next, please. Okay, this is my spirit of a person with serious mental illness. Notice how it looks like it likes water. Next, please. Mesquite. I have a fondness for mesquite because, I mean, come on, right? Like, this is a hardy, it wants to live. But the water that mesquite needs is not the same as what the water that our little plant needs. And oftentimes I think the system is set up in two, it's like a false, it's one or the other, right? It's either mesquite or next, please, or it's this. This is not helpful either, right? Our little plant, poor little plant, it's died. Please, next slide. This is what a psychiatric advance directive in the expanded form does. It says, okay, little plant, we know you need water. It's one of the things that you need. But it matters how we give you that water. If my client in West Texas is calling me up and saying, Miss Laurie, my caseworker is about to come over for my anger management, and I'm praying to Jesus so that I don't get mad at her, this is not helpful anger management. Let's find out what she needs and what she wants. How does she need the water provided to her? Next, please. Criminal, next, please. Okay, yes, we know who it needs to go to. Next, please. Okay, we want to avoid the crisis. Go, next. Just go ahead and put them all up, if you could. That'll be less annoying. So clearly we want to avoid the crisis to the extent that we're able to do that. Let's accept that it's happened. The police are on their way. Next step, how do we can try to de-escalate so that we don't have those arrests, so that my client, his mother is calling on an emergency detention order, the police don't arrive to take the client to the hospital, and suddenly he has multiple felony charges and he's in the county jail. Let's figure out how we can de-escalate, not just with CIT, but with the standard techniques. Those are great, but let's provide the specific individualized information that can help to de-escalate. Okay, avoid and arrest. So that can also change the dynamic with law enforcement, right? If I have had an interaction with law enforcement, even one that results in what I consider to be a positive outcome or treatment, my view of law enforcement has changed. Improve the situation within the jail. How does it empower the magistrate? If we have this information from this client about what they need in order to maintain their integrated into the community, in order to not cycle, the magistrate is going to be empowered to set terms, to understand, okay, this is the situation, and I have a way now that I can do the PR bond. Next, please. Competency. All right, this is how I view competency. We are looking at a flood. The flood sucks. It's expensive. It's not humane. It's bad for everybody. But what we're doing right now is we're going, okay, we have this competency problem. Let's get a bucket and try to figure out how to drain it out. Next, please. Let's try to reduce the spigot. Let's try to go to the other side and turn that water down. What we're finding with our public defenders is as we have this approach with the Psychiatric Advance Directive and we have this relationship with the client, guess what happens? They're able to communicate with the client. They figure out how to provide accommodation so that we can reduce the number of people who are going in rather than trying to deal with the flood. Next, please. Next, please. Empower the court. How does it empower the court? Well, now the court knows, as does community probation, what are the terms that are likely to succeed. Now I can set terms that my client can have a chance to manage to succeed. Also, this document enables a coordination, a communication between criminal and civil, so that, for example, my client is out, he's going into crisis. We can keep up with that, so maybe we can modify the terms instead of going straight to revocation. Next, please. So it's proactive, not reactive. And the last one, document integrity is critical. The document has to have legitimacy from the perspective of the person who owns the document, or it's not going to work. The hospitals and the local mental health authorities have attempted to do advanced directives in the past. They have not succeeded. Why? Well, it makes sense, right? If I have had what I consider, whether or not this is reality-based, to be a negative interaction with the mental health system, if I have been involuntarily committed, even if that was necessary, I am now not going to trust when someone says, hey, why don't you make a self-determination-based document? There cannot be a perception of power disparity. So the way that the document is created is critical. I can talk about this endlessly. This is pretty much my entire life. I strongly encourage y'all to email me. We have a project expansion that just happened in Bexar County. So Bexar County people, I was at STRAC last week. Like, please, we need to talk.
Laurie, how does law enforcement, the court, and magistrates get the document?
This is the critical thing, right? So in Bexar County, what I'm hoping, and I don't want to step on Bexar County's toes, people, but this is what we're hoping. We know through STRAC that y'all are developing these databases, and that's what we're hoping. So what my intention is, if y'all will speak to me, is to go and meet with the different entities and find out what is your system, how can we get this into your system, and do that with each entity, and then figure out how we can coordinate it. So if it's in the STRAC cloud, or if it's in a law enforcement database for the highest utilizers, then that we have to figure it out. But like our culture in Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid is, yeah, there's a lot of barriers. Okay, fine. Let's just figure out how do we deal with it. The VA also, we're getting them into the VA, which is fantastic. So if we can do it with the VA, then we can do it anywhere. But yay, VA, I love them. They're great.
Thank you.